But the reason I'm mentioning this now is because actually the way we were buying property has just come back. Now you can only pull down a remortgage once you actually own the property. So you do need to buy it, be the legal owner of that, then your solicitor can pull down the remortgage money. What you need to understand is the property market is always changing. The mortgage market is always changing. And there is a lender who right now will do a same-day remortgage. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Property Magic podcast, in which I'm going to talk about the origin of property magic. Where did the concept for the book come from? What was I writing about? And the reason I'm talking about this now is because you probably know it was all about how you can buy property using none of your own money. We were using a product called a same-day remortgage. Now, unfortunately, that disappeared in 2008, soon after the book came out, and we evolved. We found new ways of buying property, no money down. But the reason I'm mentioning this now is because actually the way we were buying property has just come back. And in this episode, I'm going to share with you in detail how you can buy property using the same day remortgage, which means you get all of your money back, so you have none of your own money left in the property if you're finding and helping motivated sellers. So let me go back a little bit in time. As you know, I've been investing in property for 30 years. And for the first 11 years of my investing, from 1995 up until 2006, I was investing in very much a conventional way. I was going to estate agents, I was going to auctions, looking for cheaper properties, ones I could add value to. I was often refinancing and taking some, if not all, of my money out. And I didn't really understand this concept of motivated sellers. I think I probably stumbled across a few motivated sellers by chance, but I didn't know you could actively look, find, and help these people who had a problem such that they were prepared to sell their property significantly below market value. My first proper motivated seller is well documented in my book, the property I bought up in Nottingham. It wasn't on the market for sale. It was owned by a gentleman who was facing eviction. He was in financial difficulties, and I was able to buy that property 36% below market value. He was absolutely delighted because he avoided repossession. None of his neighbours knew he was in difficulty, and he remained renting that property from me until the day he passed away. Now, that was called a sale and rent back. We can't do that anymore, but that doesn't matter. The principle that I used was a same-day remortgage. I was able to buy the property for cash, bridging finance, not my money, borrowed from someone else. They were prepared to lend me all the money based on the fact I was buying it significantly below market value, and the fact that I had the remortgage lined up that was going to more than pay them back and put a load of money into my pocket on the day I purchased. And the good news is we can now do this again, as I'm going to explain in this podcast. In fact, I have an hour-long training, recorded training you can access. There's going to be a link in the show notes to this podcast. There's going to be a link below this video. So go and click on that to come and join me on this online training to learn about exactly how you can do it today. I'm going to explain the basics for you, but I highly recommend you come and join me on that training. So back then, we would find a property as long as it was about 17% below the market value. So let me give you round numbers to work with. If a property was worth £100,000 and we could buy it for less than £83,000, so a 17% discount, then we could do it as a no money down deal. Let's say we had agreed to buy it for £80,000 and it's worth 100. We'd go to a bridging company who would lend us that £80,000 for just one day. And they'd do that because they knew we had a remortgage at 85% loan to value. So the value is 100, thus we can get an 85% mortgage for 85,000. So they were lending less than we would get on the day one. Now you can only pull down a remortgage once you actually own the property. So you do need to buy it, be the legal owner of that, then your solicitor can pull down the remortgage money. Because a remortgage can only be used once you own it, not to buy it. That's why we need bridging finance to buy it in the first place, but only for one day. then we pull down the same day remortgage. Now, obviously, a mortgage company cannot organize a remortgage in a day. They've got to send a surveyor out, they've got to do their checks, do their paperwork. So we would apply for the remortgage before we actually own the property. The lender was fully aware of that. They were okay with that because they knew we could only pull down the funds the day we actually bought it. We explained we were buying the property cash and then refinancing it. Now that worked very, very well until 2008, when the global financial crisis came and property markets were plummeting and lots of people have been buying properties on self-certification mortgages where they sign to say they can afford it. And that's probably one of the reasons we had the global financial crisis. Lots of people were borrowing money they shouldn't be borrowing. Banks were lending money they shouldn't be lending, and the world woke up to the reality. There was all this toxic debt, these mortgages that probably would never be paid back because the people took them out couldn't afford them. So we had the global financial crisis, banks stopped lending, and this particular bank, which was Mortgage Express, stopped doing the same day remortgage. That's because they wanted the borrowers to have some skin in the game. And when the mortgage market leveled out again, banks started lending. They were only lending at 75% loan to value. So if you're buying a £100,000 property, you could get a £75,000 mortgage and you'd have to put the £25,000 in. This meant you had some skin in the game so that if there was a problem, you'd want to work with the bank and not just throw the keys in because you don't want to lose your 25% deposit. This is why today banks require a 25% deposit from you typically in order to buy a property. And when you're remortgaging, they want 25% equity there. However, what you need to understand is the property market is always changing. The mortgage market is always changing. And there is a lender who right now will do a same day remortgage. Now that particular lender will also do bridging finance to buy a property. They will lend up to 90% of the value. So you would need to put in 10%, either your money or borrowed from someone else. So it could be no money down for you. And then they will do a remortgage up to 75% of the same day. So let's say you buy a property that's worth 200,000, but you could get a 30% discount and buy it for 140,000. They would lend you 90% of the 140. So you'd put 14,000 in plus your buying costs. That could be someone else's money, by the way. And then on the day you actually buy, they will basically give you a same day remortgage for 75% of the value being 200, they will give you a mortgage for 150. And the whole point is these mortgages and finance are all arranged in advance. They check the values genuinely 200, so you know it's 100% going to happen. So the key is you need to be buying significantly below market value. Of course, the bridging company is going to charge you money for that. The mortgage company is going to charge you money for that. So there are fees involved. The more discount, the more likely you'll have to put no money in and you'll get all your money back out. But if you haven't got such a good deal, you might need to leave a little bit of money in. But the point is, it means you're very, very quickly recycling cash. You can rapidly build a portfolio. Back in 2006, 2007, when I learned this, I was buying approximately one property every single month. If I'd been smarter, I would have focused just on doing that. And like some people I know, I would have maybe bought 100 plus properties in that 2 or 3 year period. But interestingly, when Mortgage Express withdrew that product in May 2008, I know people who had bought literally 100 plus properties in a couple of years beforehand using this method, using none of their own money, in fact, getting paid the day they bought every property. And when this method ended, suddenly they stopped buying. I know one person who bought 100 plus properties and then he didn't do anything for 3 years because his belief was you can't buy property anymore. This is why it's so important to surround yourself with other like-minded people to see what they are doing, because if you believe you can or believe you can't, you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, most of the people you hang around with, your family, your friends, your work colleagues, they don't understand this world of property investing. You've got to put yourself into this positive environment of people who get it and understand it and who are always looking for a new innovative way for you to invest in property using very little of your own money. And that's what Property Magic was all about. how to build your property portfolio using other people's time, money, and experience. You don't need to know everything. You just need to get yourself around other people who have done this and doing this, and then you can become very successful in property. So I highly recommend, want to click on the link below, come and join me on that 60-minute training to understand exactly how you can use this, how you can find great properties below market value, and then how you can fund those using very little of your own money. This is such a great time to be buying property. You should be actively out there finding lots of deals while most people are sitting back waiting to see what happens, waiting to see what happens about the budget, waiting to see what happens about the renters' right bill, waiting to see what happens about interest rates. Now is the opportunity. Take action. Come and click on the link. It's going to be below this video. Come and secure that online training with me. I do hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Property Magic Podcast. There's a new episode every Tuesday. Make sure you listen to it as soon as it comes out. Very often, the information is timely, like in this particular episode. Until next time, I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill.